My name is Josh Watterson. I am the brewmaster here at Pilsners Ale Manufacturing. When I came on board about 4 months ago, I think one of the big things was how do we get each beer to have its own story, and how do we get each beer to tie into the history of the brand? And we just kind of saw as a team that there was kind of a glaring hole with the yellow, and it just didn't quite fit. And so for me, it's very much about the story. And when I sat down with the owner, Greg Smith, and talked about the story of the brand and the history of the brand, and the fact that it really kind of came full circle when he was building out the brewery, that it was his great-great-grandfather that was actually a brewmaster in Brunau, Germany, it kind of seemed befitting to have the yellow tie back to this German roots, since none of the other flagships were really German. So tying it to just a clean, classic German Pilsner, for me, kind of seemed like a no-brainer. One of the big things is when you look at the differences between what they deem a golden or a blonde and a Pilsner, is when you say golden or blonde, you can't really visualize the ingredients. And maybe this is a little bit more towards the beer nerd or the beer connoisseur, but when you say German Pilsner, you are immediately thinking of the yeast, what hops, and what grains. With the golden, it's just kind of, it's almost a crapshoot in terms of you can use any of those raw materials to kind of create what's known as more of a base beer. But with the German Pilsner, it's very traditional, it's very classic. The Pilsner obviously is a harder and more technical beer to produce. It takes longer in tank, and you have to do multiple steps to ensure that the quality is on par. For me, it was a much more interesting beer to produce because it's more challenging. When you think about building the story, we were able to kind of build that beer in the same way. In the new yellow, it is Weyermann Pilsner malt with the all noble hops. We have Hallertau and Merkur hops. We have Weyermann base premium Pilsner. And then we have, we use a German yeast strain from Eyinger. So it's all real German ingredients from Germany that we're using here in this facility, and technical aspect to that. And for us, when it came to moving the yellow over to a lager, that honestly didn't bother us. We were totally fine taking the extra time for a product it is one of our cores, and changing it to a different flavor profile and a different style. We had no issue giving it more time in tank. If we have to install more tanks, so be it. It's about quality and keeping that story a little bit more on par with what the brand's going for. It is not as common to see lager breweries here as it is elsewhere in the country. The Georgia beer scene is very young. Most of that has to do with the legislation that's kind of restricted craft brewing over the last couple decades. There are some great producers, but they're very limited. Large movement that the craft beer movement is, it's surprising that Georgia hasn't kind of taken off more in that sense, but it is mostly because of the legislation and the restrictions that have been in place for this area and this region. So with that changing, there are people that kind of have to break boundaries and produce the styles that just aren't typically done, or that are a little bit more technical. So for a lot of the breweries, in tying up tanks for 2 to 3 to 4 months at a time is difficult. So there's a restriction there. The fact that it is more of a technical process with the lager production, there's another kind of hurdle there that you have to get over. But there are several really good producers here, but you're talking a handful. And so to be able to step into that realm and hopefully bring a really great product to the table, I think is great for not just us, but Georgia beer. With that, you get this great, clean, classic, delicate aromas and flavors. You get a nice white fluffy head, and it's a really clear beer, so it's filtered. That gives us just the opportunity to kind of showcase the carbonation and showcase all the hard work we've done. The yellow has been one of the first things that we talked about when I came on board, and to kind of see it come to fruition and to finally be here for everyone to enjoy. It's going to be a great day to just see everybody enjoying a product that we have built kind of from the ground up, but also brought all of our experience and education together to create something special for Pilsners Ale.